Psilocybin is just such an amazing drug. I have worked so long now in a marginalised healthcare system, which is alternative medicine, and I just thought, I just don't want to spend the rest of my career doing that. I want to work publicly and I want people to know what we can do with plant medicine. If the one legacy that Beautiful Space leaves, it's how to take psychedelics safely.
I'm really stoked to be here. So please tell us, who are you and what do you do?
So I'm Sarah Tilley. I'm the founder of Beautiful Space. I'm a psychedelic-assisted therapist and I specialise in relationships and sexual well-being. So I work with couples and I've created a method to work with psilocybin and couples, really listening to the signature of the medicine, but also, developing a methodology based on MAPS, protocol for MDMA. I run a company and I have a very tiny team. I live in London and I commute to the Netherlands to be able to do my dosing because psilocybin isn't legal in the UK. And I had to start a Dutch company, and we are in research with Imperial College London on the world's first study on couples, psilocybin and relationship well-being.
I can't wait to dive into that, but we have to start with a very important thing there. What is psychedelic-assisted therapy? Where do we begin with that? Please dive in there.
It's new and it's old. It is new to the psychedelics world, but taking plant medicine alongside talking and feeling and embodiment is really where we are at with psychedelic-assisted therapy. So, what I've created at Beautiful Space is a 12-week program, and we have preparation, then we have medicine, and then we have integration. And we use certain models which could be internal family systems, psychodynamic work, breath work. So therapeutic modalities, and then the psychedelic part in the middle is really this mind-revealing part of what's happened within preparation. I describe it as a snow globe that's being shaken up within the mind and the body as we're in preparation, and it's the snowstorm in the medicine part. And then after the medicine, it settles. All of this then goes into integration. What happened? Where did you go? What did you see? What did you feel? And creating a plan and a model afterwards in order for the person to move to a place of wholeness and healing. With psychedelic-assisted therapy, it is important to have ethics, harm reduction, and we work very hard to have the best in the world. And to establish new models for this, there's some beautiful work around which we do borrow as well to have the highest standards.
And so people are doing this in other places, I understand, and they may use other substances, but you're using mushrooms exclusively? Yeah. Why?
I'm just really into plants. I've been a vegetarian for over 40 years. I love nature. I've always been drawn to nature since a child. I would run away and be in nature. I just think plants are where it's at, and psilocybin is part of this movement which I started around 2012, which was around sustainable healthcare, looking at how we could reduce carbon emissions. And it is all of that. And, we can grow it in our laundry cupboard and we can take it at home as long as we know how to work with safe psychedelics.
So that's a really interesting angle. I mean, mushrooms growing out of essentially waste materials. It's so easy to create the medicine as opposed to a huge industrial process to create pills like SSRIs. Or what have you. So that's a very interesting benefit that I hadn't really heard mentioned before. Very cool, Sarah.
Yeah, I've been working in alternative medicine for over 20 years, but before that, I raised my children homeopathically, and I had natural births, so I'm very much into the sustainability of it all and working with nature.
So why then wouldn't somebody just grow the mushrooms in their basement and eat them hanging out in the park?
Well, people do, and good for them. I've tried growing mushrooms. It's actually not as easy as it looks. I know other people that have spent a lot of investment into trying to grow mushrooms in their garage, and it didn't work. I think really you've got to love it. You've got to tend to it like you would a beautiful plant, and find exactly the right environment and really tune into how to grow it, where in your house, and yeah, it's an art, and I'll leave it to the artists.
Okay, absolutely. I'd leave it to North Spore for sure. So you mentioned early on that it's actually illegal in the UK. How are you getting around this, and what's the legal landscape look like for you?
It's tricky, and we're kind of on top of the policy, and it's probably medically it's going to be available within psychiatry in 4 years or so, but we're looking at more within kind of a change in just normal policy for decriminalisation, perhaps 7 years, but we can't actually say no one's holding their breath on that. So I actually wanted to operate a legal company because I have worked so long now in a marginalised healthcare system, which is alternative medicine. And I just thought, I just don't want to spend the rest of my career doing that. I want to work publicly, and I want people to know what we can do with plant medicine. And so, yeah, I went to the trouble of setting up a Dutch company, and it's tricky, it's very tricky, but we're still standing, we're still here. And so I run a hybrid therapeutic program, so some of it's online, and then we do dosing in the Netherlands. And people come from Australia, India, America to work with me, and they'll fly all over the world to kind of come to and meet me in the Netherlands.
So the Netherlands, huh? Yeah. That's a really, really interesting place. I know that the psilocybin is legal, but like not totally. Is it like just truffles?
Yeah. So magic mushrooms are illegal. But you've got the truffle part, which is the part that grows underground. It's a little bit like a nut, and that's what I use. And I have a beautiful partnership with a truffle provider, and they're produced by the Truffle Brothers, actually. So yeah, it's very clean. They're kept at a particular temperature. I use a grinder. It's very ceremonial, which is a beautiful thing for a couple to come into working with medicine. That's part of, the care and ritual in their relationship. And yeah, we break it down into a paste, and then, just the right temperature in order for it to steep as a tea, and then they'll take it with some lemon juice.
So how do you think about like dosing and strength? I know the truffles are typically not as powerful as your standard mushroom. And so like how much are your clients usually taking of that?
Yeah. I just create a standard. I do 2.5 grams in wet truffles, that's 25 grams. If I know that it's a robust person, it might not be the first person, the first time they've taken psilocybin, or they're just really emotionally robust and they might be in the pursuit of consciousness rather than addressing deep-rooted trauma, which displays itself in an eating disorder, for example. I'll give them a lower dose. Dosage is absolutely crucial to the outcome of the experience. I'm very careful with it.
You mentioned an eating disorder.
Yeah.
So what's like the spectrum of different situations that bring people to you?
Yeah, people come with something that they just cannot tolerate anymore, and it absolutely needs to change. because of our pricing, and we have to, you know, we pay VAT, we've got a lot of overhead, so we're probably one of the highest cost providers in the world for individual therapy and couples therapy.
How expensive?
Did you see my prices? Oh.
I did, but you can go ahead and share that.
For a 3-month program, for a couple, it's over £7,500, which is a lot in US dollars.
Yeah.
And Australian dollars. And then for an individual program, it's over £6,000. We're constantly giving discounts because we want people to use this. And for running a retreat, it's much cheaper as well. But, you know, it's interesting that people are at, you know, kind of the last resort. So they're really, we want to make this work, and we actually have really good results. So we're writing a white paper at the moment, which is psilocybin therapy versus the cost of divorce. And actually the cost of divorce is mind, body, spirit. It is financial for women, it's mental health for children, loneliness for men. So it's absolutely huge, and you can't put a value on that.
Seems worth it for many, many people. Without a doubt, they come out the other side feeling that way. Are there particular stories or a story that you can tell about an individual or a couple that just really comes to mind and really like exemplifies the success of the program and the effect of the mushrooms?
So I'm presenting tomorrow, my method tomorrow, and I've kind of picked up on a particular case that I want to talk about. They're in their early 30s. She came from a background of civil war in Zimbabwe. He came from toxic masculinity and alcoholism in Finland, and they came together and they had a beautiful marriage. And then they had a child who, when they arrived with me, the child was 3 years old. And it was really testing for them, you know, to maintain intimacy rather than do this subconscious behavior, which they didn't even know that they were doing. They didn't know why all they could think about was splitting up. And they'd been in that situation for 1.5 years or so. They were living in her mother's house, and it was, you know, last chance saloon for them again if this wasn't going to work. But they were very open-minded themselves anyway, and they came in. One of the most crucial things throughout the program is this couple bonding exercise, which starts at the beginning. We are addressing childhood story, family of origin and trauma through the program, and that's specifically what we address within romantic relationships and how that shows up in disconnection, loss of sex, loss of desire, alcoholism. I work with all sorts of complex diseases, but because we work in subclinical, it is easier to work with them. They have a beautiful story. They had a big reveal. Each of them had a big reveal in the medicine trip, and his was of a recovered memory of the deep trauma that was going on in the family home. And for her, she had a recovered memory of being a young child hiding under a chair in the Civil War. And what we were able to extract out of that was that both of them had grown up very afraid. Both of them had built these personalities to be within the framework of internal family systems, to protect themselves with being a provider or very busy. And we were able to just kind of put that aside and really address how to build a secure home for their little girl, to reprioritize, you know, the family unit. Both of them absolutely wanted to do that. And they moved out of her mother's home. They found privacy. They moved into a home in the countryside and had another baby. So it was such a beautiful story. Yes, a beautiful space has 3 babies and 1 marriage.
Cool. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Does the psilocybin mostly allow them to process their own issues, or does the psilocybin really help with the intimacy itself?
Yeah. So, very good question. So, why I particularly wanted to use psilocybin as well over MDMA is that MDMA, it kind of merges and can create a false sense of intimacy. But psilocybin has the opposite action. It actually untangles the merged couple and creates a state of individuation. And so the self becomes stronger. And as we get to know ourselves, we come through to this model of self-actualization. And that's what I wanted. So I did 7 years training with Esther Perel. And her model of couples therapy is really that we need to be stronger within ourselves. So that in the middle is desire. And that's why we're called Beautiful Space, is that it's the extracting of the two, and it's the space that's held in between.
I'm glad we were able to get to that. That's really good. So you're expanding your offerings, and you're going to be able to bring people together even more deeply through retreats.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a women's program as well, and absolutely a very important part of the couple dynamic is that she becomes empowered and she gathers this strength. So we run women's retreats, and then coming into the couples retreat, it's just being able to work with that group dynamic, to bring in certain exercises where the men sit in a circle and are listening to what the women are talking about, conversations that they wouldn't necessarily be privy to otherwise, that the men can understand, you know, these natural pulls to be the provider, to be everything that his father, and he grew up thinking he was supposed to be, yet the world has changed. You know, young people are not growing up, there's much more equality. And, you know, I work with all sorts of age groups from late 20s into 70s. But the world has changed for all of us and what we're looking for in long-term relationships. So to find that within the group dynamic is amazing, and they stay lifelong friends.
What will happen during the retreats? Is it like the whole program kind of condensed down into a more intensive several days?
Yeah, it is, but at the same time, the individual therapy is really kind of breaking down the childhood story, and there's a lot of personal work and a lot of work around intimacy and sex and the type of sex they might be having or not having. Actually, the group work is perhaps just a little bit softer, and it is about, you know, opening out as the group into what we call erotic safety. So part of my training is the wheel of consent, what erotic safety actually feels like, to be able to just hold each other and look at each other, and no one is expected to have sex or perform, but, you know, when she can feel held, she will then, you know, kind of open herself into accepting.
Beautiful. Where will these retreats be?
Yeah, all over the world actually. All sorts. Yeah, keep an eye out on the website.
Definitely. So what does the future look like for Beautiful Space and for psychedelic-assisted therapy as a modality? I'm in an echo chamber, so I live, eat and breathe psychedelic-assisted therapy. Every taxi I get into in the Netherlands, I say, I'm here working as a psychedelic therapist. Do you know what psychedelics are? And nearly every taxi driver will say, no, I have no idea. And that's in a country where they're legal. I think, because we're creating a training program as well, I think there will be a huge tipping point within psychotherapists and therapy is, and I already get many therapists who contact me and say, I want to learn what you're doing. How can I learn to do that? So they know that it's accelerated therapy. You know, we no longer need to spend like 10 years, and then all we're doing is hearing this same story echo round and round. Actually, this is a whole new thing where we're able to have huge perspective, do some healing, and then just kind of build ourselves up from the bottom again. Phenomenal. I think that, imagine if in America we had insurance coverage for something like this. It could really open it up to a lot of people, but I think a lot of our audience, even if they are mushroom savvy, are hearing this for the first time. So thank you.
Yes, yes. I just think it's really important that those of us who are in this field make it as accessible as possible. And yes, we charge those high prices because we're running a company and we're doing research, but we also offer free education material, and we do, you know, kind of really low cost community work, which might even be free. So like free workshops for people in the middle of London, just to introduce what this work is all about. And I've also created a thing called psychedelic mindfulness, which is kind of just starting to move into the NHS in the UK, just so that people start to become aware of what even the word psychedelic is. It's not a foreign word to them. So yeah, we're kind of, yeah, we're out there changing the system.
Got to keep at it.
Yeah.
Got to keep at it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Maybe circling back around to cultivation just for a moment, because it's so interesting. Is there, you know, when people are following up, and especially if they're online, how are they getting their mushrooms? And have you ever thought to like encourage their own cultivation at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. I do have to be very careful, obviously, because I'm kind of public facing, and it just wouldn't do for the police to come knocking on my door. But however, I encourage everyone to go and find out about this, and to find a source of their own. And maybe it's local, maybe it's online. You know, in Schengen, that, you know, you can order, you know, mushrooms, truffles in the Netherlands and get them sent to you in Spain. And that's absolutely possible. And I know, you know, some of that goes on around Canada and the US as well. So yeah, find something that really ticks your box, that's heart-centered, and stick with what you know, because it's a gateway into a kind of family and a group of people and a community. And if we're going to do anything with this medicine, it is healing community. Yeah.
So I would just want to build off of that for a sec. People that have gone through your program, how do you see them maybe a few years down the line? Have you continued to communicate with some of them, and do they engage with the psychedelic space after their profound learning?
Yeah, I mean, we do have very happy customers, so they come back, and then they send their children, or they might send their grandparents, aunts and uncles, neighbours. So, you know, in there is the enrichment of their community. And, you know, when someone gets better, and they might arrive with, like, OCD from the death of a spouse, for example, and OCD from childhood has reoccurred. So we work with that with psilocybin. Psilocybin is just such an amazing drug. And, you know, to work with it subtly, when we're looking at dosage, and dosage is really important. You know, you can work with microdosing and then gradually work your way up into what might be, you know, an area where you might have felt uncomfortable, which might be 1 gram or 1.5 grams. You know, you feel disorientated at that. And on a microdose, you don't feel anything. It's subperceptual. On 2.5 grams, it is, you know, you need to get a blanket out and not move, and put some music on, and have your pen and paper and journal there, and a snack, and you're going to be there for 5 hours. So, you know, preparation for all of this needs to be really looked at. We have brochures actually on how to microdose. We want to educate people because we know people are going to do this anyway. So that's why we run education, we create brochures, and we work in community, because if the one legacy that Beautiful Space leaves, it's how to take psychedelics safely.
So I have to ask, what about your own personal use? Do you partake, and how do you engage with it personally?
Yeah, I think I have a practice, so it's my duty to take high doses of psychedelics. I took high dose, about 8 grams actually, a few months ago. you know, I prepared myself. I took a little bit the day before because I wanted my body to remember what happens. And then I remembered that I need to prepare my room, that I need food. I prepared my playlist, and I set out my own ceremony. So I was there for about 7 hours. But in there I had many hours experiencing the meaning of human existence. And that's what you can have at 8 grams with a tried and tested protocol, knowing how to deal with anxiety that might come up. So we teach that as well. The embodiment of what actually happens. So, you know, even I get nervous when I do high doses. But for me as a practitioner who works with people who might be experiencing God or, you know, multi-dimensional existence within the therapeutic setting, it is important that I remember as well.
Have you ever had anybody like freak out or had a really adverse reaction?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've had someone have a panic attack, you know, someone nearly fainting. There was someone wanting to vomit. Someone, you know, vomiting happens sometimes. A real fear of not being able to let go of this impending something. And so you might say that there's a block and a fear, but in preparation they've learned, and they come into and actualize the breath work, the, you know, in it and through it, you know, these words of, you know, if there is this big fear, what are the words it might want to say to you? So working with what comes up rather than, so I carry other medicines, other plant medicines actually, in order to help people, the back flower essences, in order to kind of calm people down. I might give them that.
Interesting. Yeah, I know that those things luckily are few, it sounds like, and that you're prepared.
Yeah, I do prepare my clients really well, and I have actually had to say to some people, we've flown all this way and I'm not going to be able to give you the medicine. You're not in the right state. And I have warned them. I might have seen that that was going to happen. There was a risk for that. And yeah, so I'm not going to give people medicine if I think it's going to be too high risk. And we have quite a tight screening protocol, which has been devised by Imperial College and King's College. So we don't take people who have experienced psychosis, schizophrenia or bipolar. And that's what's important to understand, the risk and harm as well of recurrent psychosis. This is very, very strong medicine, and there's a lot of lessons that have been learned from cannabis, in the cannabis industry, and I'm just someone and a voice in the field that I'm really straight, really. I'm a nerd.
Well, it sounds to me like you're making a difference, and you mentioned Imperial College of London. Are you doing research with them?
Yeah, so I teamed up with Tommaso Barber, who's another big name in the field, and yeah, we're doing the first study on psilocybin, couples and relationship well-being with the Beautiful Space program, and we're here at Psychedelic Science to present the preliminary data on that. It's looking good, and I'm really happy about that.
Great, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So just to get an idea of numbers, how many people have gone through your program at this point using psilocybin to find some relief?
Yeah, in the last 3 years, it's probably close to 100.
Wow. Well, I think that this medicine and this approach makes it a lot safer and is going to help a whole lot more people in the future. I think everybody in this building right now believes in that.
Yeah.
But truly, thank you, Sarah. If people are interested in learning more about the work that you do, how can they go about that?
Yeah, they can go to our website, which is beautifulspace.org. They can find me on social media at Sarah Tilley Wellness, or then Beautiful Space Wellness. So yeah, we're there. Come and say hi and join one of our online free programs.